fine. Masechet Bava Kama Daf Lametes Amud Beis, towards the bottom of the page. We definitely have to review what we said yesterday, not just for you, but for everybody, because the question today is a continuation of what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, we mentioned two opinions, which either agree with each other or disagree. Yeah, it's a brisa which is very esoteric. The brisa said, I'm repeating the brisa that we saw yesterday, the brisa is, the line starts with the word show. It's about 10 lines from the bottom of the page. Yeah. V'atanya, show shel chershot v'koton, shenogach. Yeah, you have it. Show shel chershot v'koton, shenogach. Rabbi Yehuda mechayev, v'Rabbi Yaakov mechatzi nezek hu demishalem. Rabbi Yehuda says that you're chayev, there's a chershot v'koton. Those three underprivileged people, those, the minor, the whatever, the crazy guy, whoever. Yeah, so those people, if they're shor gored, it's chayev, according to Rabbi Yaakov. And Rabbi Yehuda says chayev, and Rabbi Yaakov says chatzi nezek hu demishalem. So now, what does that mean? We said yesterday, Rabbi Yehuda has a very interesting shita, a very interesting idea regarding shor muad in general. Rabbi Yehuda says when a shor muad becomes muad, it's half tam plus half, an extra half of muadus, which means that even after the shor gored 3 times, now it's the 4th time. Finally, you pay the 4th time, meaning you pay how much? Half or full? Muad, full nezek. But that full nezek is half from the body of the shore and half from the karka. It's still half tam and half muad. Yeah, the 2 halves of a whole. And therefore, it says Rabbi Yehuda another halacha, that for sure muad, if you had minimal shmira, you had the minimal shmira, the minimal kind of just about okay guarding, keeping him at bay, that is okay for sure muad, which means for a short time you still have to pay half. But the extra half you pay by the 4th time, if you gave him minimal shmir, you don't have to. Only if you're completely negligent, then you have to pay the extra half. Now, comes the brisa and says, Rabbi Yehuda is mechayev, I'm rereading the brisa, the one of those children or whatever, or the retarded guy, Rabbi Yehuda says chayev, Rabbi Yaakov mechatzi nezek hu demishalem. What does that mean? Rabbi Yaakov says half, and what Rabbi Yehuda would say full, is it tam, muad, what's the story? And we had a previous brisa which we discussed regarding this. Amar Abba Ba'ula, mash mechayev Rabbi Yehuda, piresh Rabbi Yaakov. Yeah, in other words, no. Rabbi Yaakov explains what Rabbi Yehuda would say, which means Rabbi Yehuda would only be chayev half. Why only half? Yeah, only half you'd be chayev because it's a show. What kind of show is it? You could say that it's a show tam. Show tam, enochinami. How much does the short tam pay? Half. Okay, very good. Ula Abaye now. Ula Abaye the Omar pligi. Abai says that they disagree with each other. Yeah, they disagree with each other, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yaakov. Yeah, how would Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yaakov disagree with each other? Well, what's the machlokes? Omar lecho, says Abai, och b'mayaskin, and you know the stories, b'muad v'lo inatrei klal. We're talking about a muad which was not guarded at all. If a muad was not guarded b'chlal, then according to Rabbi Yehuda, you pay full nezek. Only if you guarded it a little bit, then we give off we sort of merachim on the second half. But if you didn't guard the shore at all and it's a shor muad, then you have to pay full nezek. Now, Rabbi Yaakov, that's what Rabbi Yehuda holds. What did Rabbi Yaakov think? When Rabbi Yaakov said only half, Rabbi Yaakov is sovel Rabbi Yehuda bechada, upolgele bechada. Rabbi Yaakov that says you only pay half for muad. From muad of the little boys, you only pay half. How come you only pay half for muad? He believes Rabbi Yehuda on one hand and argues on Rabbi Yehuda on the other hand. Savalok Rabbi Yehuda bechada. He believes Rabbi Yehuda. He thinks Rabbi Yehuda in one aspect, in one thing, that what the Rabbi Yehuda sova tzad tamus bimkoimo oimedes. Rabbi Yehuda holds that tzad tamus, the tamus aspect, stays for life. Even if after the shore is muad, you still have to pay half and half. Half from the body and half from the land, yeah? But he argues with him in a different nakuda. He argues with him something else. Rabbi Yehuda says, and this is unbelievable, Rabbi Yehuda says, when you have an apotropos, this is Yesoimim, or this is a guy who went away, or this is a guy who is lo leinu mentally ill. So there's somebody else looking after the show, true? And therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, you know what? You have to pay in full. You have a show muad, yeah? You have a show muad, which wasn't guarded, and now you have to pay what? You have to pay the whole thing, yeah? Rabbi Yaakov Sover ein ma'amidin v'lo mishalem el hapalga demuad. Rabbi Yaakov says no. You don't get the apotropos to pay for the tamus part. The part that is tam is not paid for those underprivileged people, the apotropos. So something very funny comes up. The first, second, and third time you don't pay anything. The fourth time you only pay for the muad half and not for the tam half. You get that? Again. What? Because we still have the rachmanus over the tam part. For the tam, we're always being merciful. Migufo, we don't touch the cow of the Yesoimim, or we see the tam as still staying tam in a way. Interesting. But the second half of the muad, that you do pay from the apotropos, that the apotropos pays. Mimela, the tam never ever pays, but once you accumulate the fourth time, the second half of the fourth time, you pay. And that's exactly what Rabbi Yehuda, that's what Rabbi Yaakov thinks. That's Rabbi Yaakov came up with half. Very good. So let's summarize. Either Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda agree on everything. What do you mean they agree on everything? They agree that a tam of the shorchor shetav koton has to pay. And they agree to the fact that once it became muad, then you have to pay what? If you were negligent, you have to pay the whole thing. If you're just about okay, you have to pay how much? You have to pay for only the tam, not the muad. That's Rova and his friends. And Abai says no. Abai say they actually argue. They argue and they say that according to Rabbi Yaakov, you don't pay for the tam part. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, you pay for the tam part from the apotropos when the apotropos is in charge. That's what we said yesterday. Now we have one more point. Now starts actually today's shir. The shir is Leilu Nishmas of Imad Menachem Ben Akiva, Nishmas Tov Bas Yaakov, Refuas, Pnina Chai Bas Geula Rochel, Yudis Bas Rivka, Mordechai Avram Alevi Ben Sarah, Golda Gula Bas Shifra. Omen Ravacha Bar Abai Ravina. Here comes a new question. It's just one question, one answer, and then we start the new topic. Ravacha, the son of Abai, asked Ravina, with the third line from the bottom of the page, Lamed Tes Amud Beis Bava Kama. According to Abaye, that says Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda argued regarding whether the apotropos pays from the tam part or doesn't pay the tam part, and what? And according to Rabbi Yaakov, the apotropos doesn't pay the tamus. If so, Shapir. What's Shapir? What's good? We understand, if you remember, there was a brisa way above in the middle of the page. The first brisa, Shor Chesed Koton Shenogach, Rabbi Yaakov Mishalem Chatzi Nezek. That was the first brisa before Rabbi Yehuda came into the scene. Rabbi Yaakov said one statement: a show of those three musketeers, those three guys, the shore pays what? The other shore doesn't pay. You pay chetzi nezek for short time. I understand why Rabbi Yaakov Dafka had to speak about the short time. When he spoke about the chidush, then an apotropos is there as a figure to be warned and possibly pay money also, even though the people are not there. We say what? We speak about a tam, because that's all chidush of Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov comes and boldly says, I argue with Rabbi Yehuda, and I think short time should be taken from his money. It should be taken from the go for the short time. I understand, makes sense. According to Rabbi, it says that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yaakov both agree on time and more than everything. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. He didn't speak about time. He spoke about Amud. Excuse me, I made a mistake. Delete what I said before. Rabbi Yaakov's original statement of Chatzi Nezek was actually in Muad. The Rabbi Yaakov's original statement that Meshalem Chatzi Nezek is Dafka talking about Muad. And it's coming to tell me only Muad has to pay half Nezek and not the extra half. Why? Because he believes that you don't pay from the Tamus, you only pay from the Muad. After 4 times, you only pay the muad half and not the tam half. I'm sorry, he doesn't pay the tam. According to Yaakov, you pay the muad half. Yeah, that's why we spoke about muad. Makes sense that the statement was a big chiddush. It's a muad who pays only half nezek. Wow. Okay, and he argues on Obiuda that says that once a apotropos is there, he pays everything, muad and the tam. But according to Ovid, it says that they don't argue and they agree you pay everything, tam muad and anything in between. Ad mukila b'muad. If you why Davka the Brisa spoke about muad nukma betam. Why don't you talk about tam? Why do you mention muad? Mention tam. Yeah, and therefore, okay, that should be the story. Should be tam. Yeah. I prefer to continue the sentence and then I'll hear a question. Now the Gemara brings down different opinions as part of the question. As part of the question, the Gemara brings down two different opinions who talk about what kind of shmira is required for a short tam. Yeah, this is like an aside thing to add to the question. Actually, I can hear a question now. Give me a second. I want to actually look in the Gemara later to see something. 1 minute. The Gemara just gives you an example of when would the tam be chayiv. Why can't you talk about tam? Look, according to Rabbi Yehuda, let's say this apotropos guarded him shmira pchusa, inferior kind of shmira, v'lo l'shmira me'ula, and he didn't do proper shmira to the show. You're chayiv. You're chayiv because the shmira that's not me'ula for a short tam is not good. For short muad, funnily enough, shmira pchusa is good enough. Why? Because that's like the extra half. Yeah. But the minimal shmira for the minimal amount, you always have to do. You have to do more than minimal. You have to do good shmira. You did minimal and not good, very good shmira. You're chayiv. Ilo Blezer ben Yaakov, the loved l'shmira klal. According to Blezer ben Yaakov, for tam it's enough to do decent minimal shmira. But if you didn't do any shmira at all, you'd be chayiv. We're just looking for different realities, the applications of when a person would be chayiv on short times, that's all. Titania, it says, yeah. Okay, so you see that if you did shmira pchusa, regular minimal shmira for either tam or muad, it's good enough. You're potter. Yeah. Okay. Why does Rabbi Yaakov have to talk about shor muad? Just say normal. Speak about a regular short tam, which is the beginning of the Maisa, before shor muad, and tell me, when it comes to Yesoimim, get an apotropos for the tam to take from the body of the tam. If that's what Rabbi Yaakov wanted to say, that you take even from the tam, not from the muadis, from the land, even from the body of the shore, which is the bigger chiddush, let Rabbi Yaakov say it and finished. Why does he talk about muad? This is where Rabbi Yaakov Dafka spoke about muad and not about tam with the Yisoimim, vis-a-vis the Yisoimim. He wants to kill two birds with one stone. Chado, first of all, chadadis betalti. He wants to learn one that includes two. Chadadis betalti taime, I'm sorry. He wants to learn one thing that includes two things. Yeah, which means, let's look at Rashi. Chadadis betalti taime. Rashi is a few lines from the after the narrow lines. You have the narrow lines? Yeah, chadadis betalti taime. You have it in the middle? Yeah, let's say it's the first dibra maschil in the narrow lines. Yeah, yeah. In other words, Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yehuda don't argue at all. Rabbi Yaakov only explained the brisa to be talking about muad that was guarded in a minimal way. What is it telling me? The mashma mino, that comes to teach us the Isla Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yehuda, the Sagil Letzad Mu'odus B'Shmira Pchusa. First of all, you learn one thing. This is a good summary, by the way, or part of what we said. Rabbi Yaakov agrees to Rabbi Yehuda that Mu'ad, it's enough to have Shmira Pchusa for Mu'ad. Once he gored, even though he gored 4 times, and now you still guard him in a minimal way, you still have to pay the first half, but not the second half. The extra half of mu'adus, that you potter if you did minimal shmira. The tzad tamus bimkoi moimedes. And tzad tamus stays as it was. The tamus half stays like that for life. Yeah, but he doesn't believe the shmira pchusa is for tamus. For tamus, it's not enough to do shmira pchusa, and everyone agrees to that. Yeah, l'didei means it's the tamus side. The tam side, it's not enough to do shmira pchusa. you have to, for that half, which will always stay with the show, you have to do good shmira. As long as you do good shmira, you'll always be chayv at least a half. Umashmanami. Now, the second thing which we want to be mashmiya, the second thing which we want to tell us is nami the mamina patopos letam nigvus migufoi. Also, we want to tell us the tam pays from what migufoi, which means, what was your question? What was your attack? Why can't you just talk about tam? Speak normal, speak about tam. No. If we'd only spoken about tam, I would know the tam takes migufoi, but it would miss the whole chunk, the whole beautiful story of what happens when it's muad, and even though it's muad, you only pay, how much? You only pay half and not pay full because you gave it minimal shmira. That I wouldn't have known. I'm not a prophet. I would have known Rabbi Yaakov believes Rabbi Yehuda in that. That's why we spoke about muad, to tell you a big chiddush. Even though it's muad, you only pay for half. Which half? The half of tam, which is inserted, which is embedded in the muad. And that's what you have to pay for because you did minimal guarding. Minimal guarding gets you off the hook of the Shnezik Sholem. You only have to pay half. That I wouldn't have known it has spoken about tam. That's the answer. Now, one more answer before we finish this sugya, before we finish this part of the sugya. Ravina Omar. Ravina explains what's the machlokes between Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda. Reshus Meshana Ika Beinayu. Very good. You know the differences between Rabbi Yaakov. What did the Brisa say? Rabbi Yehuda says chayev, full nezek, right? And Rabbi Yehuda says you only have to pay half the nezek. What's the difference? Well, what's the inyan? Reshus Meshana. What's Reshus Meshana? Remember? It goes back to the apotropos. Does the animal change name, change behavior? Does it reset and become zero or becomes half? Yeah. Ikabana, Kigon. The other muad. Yeah, it was muad. Where was it muad? By the apotropos. The apotropos guarded him whichever way. Maybe it was too tough on him, maybe too easy on him. I don't know. The apotropos, by him, it got bad points, like for your driving license, your insurance. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Oy vavoy. Next time it's going to be what? Full nezek. Oy vavoy. V'nispakeach hacheresh, v'nishtape hashoite, v'igdil hakoto, unless he comes back home. The cheresh all of a sudden got a good hearing aid. The shoite got his psychiatric pills. The koton got a bar mitzvah. Everything is good. They're back to life and they're back into looking after the shore. Rabbi Yehuda says chayev and doesn't say half. Rabbi Yehuda means you still maintain what? The good old or bad old points. Let's say now, a day after the bar mitzvah boy is now looking after the show, doing his best to guard the show. Yeah, he's a farm boy. And now, boom, it gored for the 4th time. Says Rabbi Yehuda, well, I know how to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's Shor Muad. I don't care that now it moved into new hands. Reshus loy meshano, doesn't make a difference. And Rabbi Yaakov said Reshus meshano. Rabbi Yaakov said half. He says no. Reset. Bar mitzvah present. Stop, I'm joking. Not bar mitzvah present. Once there's a new bailim, there's a new name on the show, or new behavior, or new whatever. Therefore, it's new. Reset, a new story, and therefore now, even though chronologically speaking it's a 4th time, we still say it's kilu the 1st time, and therefore he says you have to pay half. Hence, Rabbi Yehuda saying full, whole, and Rabbi Yaakov says half. Yeah, we're talking about the return, what happens after the 1st time of the return. I'd like to do a sikum, but not now. I promise, bli neder tomorrow. Yeah, after we read one more Amud here, we learn one more Amud regarding kofer. In Eretz Hashem, tomorrow I'll give a summary of the whole Indian. I know it's a bit complicated, I'm aware of it. Yeah, it was also complicated for me a little bit, and therefore I would like to review, okay, tomorrow the summary of everything, of when you pay half, full, the Yomi, v'chule, okay? Bli neder tomorrow at the beginning of Shir. Tanu Abanon, 2 dots. So now let's go give a small introduction. What is kofer? Tell me, not kofer a heretic. What does kofer mean regarding Bava Kama? Let me sip my tea while you guys tell me what kofer is. What? Penalty payment for who? For parking in the area's parking lot? That's too much already. That's worse than goring.
It is.
Kaparah for what? If the shore did what?
Kills a man.
Kills a man. He's the man. Ellen knows. Ellen in the art scroll. Very good. So now, If a show gored a person, loy olaini killed the person, then regardless of it being tam or muad, it has to pay nezek sholem. And if it has, it has to die. I'm sorry. It has to actually die. Okay, very nice. And at some point, if it's a show muad, the bailim has to pay kofer. Kofer means that the bailim has to pay the amount of money that goes, the amount of money that, what kind of amount of money? Let's assume the amount of money that the dead person was worth. Every person has a price, actually, not like they say. And therefore, let's say that person in the work market is considered, in the workplace market is considered to be worth $1 million, and my shore gored him and killed him, then I have to pay $1 million, okay? Although that's not so simple. Tono bono. Okay, that's kofer. It says Bala show, no ki Bala show, you must. What's Bala show? You must, b'momen, with money. It's chai misa b'dei shamayim, by the way, you know that? It's chai misa b'dei shamayim. And some people explain that the misa b'dei shamayim, that is chai, Hashem's going to kill him, the owner of the show, that in the show killed someone. And there's a kaparah for, in order not to be killed b'dei shamayim, misa b'dei shamayim, he pays the money. He pays a hefty amount of money to the victim's family. That's the gadol. Now, what happens if the show of the Yesoimim, cute kinderlach, and their shore runs around and their shore gored someone? It was supposed to be looked after by the apotropos, okay? And the apotropos tried, but didn't try hard enough, and the show killed someone. Now, what do we say? Do we say that somebody here has to pay kofer or not? Tono bono. Apotroposim shalmi min aliyah. The apotropos pays min aliyah. What does that mean? If the shor is a shor muad, how does the shor muad being paid? How does the shor muad pay? Credit card, cash, Bitcoin, bank transfer, aliyah. What's aliyah? The best assets from the land. He has to sell his house in Beverly Hills. Okay, apotropos mishalmi min aliyah. Okay. Then mishalmin kofer, but kofer they don't pay. The apotropos, doesn't pay kofer, which means the yesoimim don't have to pay kofer. The yesoimim, they don't have to pay the money owed to the family of the victim. Frag the Gemara, why is that? And soon I'm expecting a question to come here. The apotropos guarded the animal, but didn't guard it well enough. Now the yesoimim are miskenim. The Yisraelim don't need kaparah because they're under bar mitzvah, and so is the cheresh and the shoyt of a cotton. They're not people that Hashem's going to give them yisa b'dei shamayim. If a cotton eats truma, lo aleinu, is he going to be chad yisa b'dei shamayim? No, he's a cotton under bar mitzvah. Leave him alone. Here too, the ketanim are ketanim. They're young, they're minors, and therefore they don't pay the kofer. They don't pay the kaparah. They don't pay the atonement for what their shore did, because they're too young. Yes?
Of course they don't pay. Why would you even have the holiday that they would pay?
Because
they're underage. But they have something else. They have you have two things. They have their apotropos, and you have
Mountain. What? They have the apotropos, not apo. And therefore, what are you saying? That who should pay? Oh, mazel tov, mazel tov. Oh, the peanut gallery is doing very good today, very well. I saw one Rishon and one Achron that asked the question what the Baruch is asking. Why? You see, it's all online, nothing censored today. Uncensored version of the shir. You're asking, it's true that the Yisraelim are miskenim, underage, don't charge them from kofer, it's a kaparah. But why shouldn't the apotropos pay the kaparah, right? The apotropos, he didn't guard it. Says the Tosfos Talmud Rabbeinu Tam. Tosfos Talmud Rabbeinu Tam, one of the Talmidim of the Tosfos, answers as follows. The only reason when apotropos has to pay, and apotropos is not exactly hot on paying or even do the job, why do we appoint an apotropos? Because there's an ongoing nezek over here. The shore is goring. The shore is really causing nezek. Nezek has to be paid. The person comes to Beis Din and says, I feel so bad that this guy's special education or that guy's death, but the shore is running around, not killing. harming and doing harm to people's property. So we have to put law and order, and we say what? Place the apotropos there, appoint the apotropos, deploy him over there, and he should pay, or he should pay from the Yesomim's money, from his own money, because Nezek was done, and you have to pay for Nezek. Kofer is not Nezek. When you pay for kofer, the Torah, by the way, stresses time and again, you can't pay for dead people. You're not paying for the dead guy. It's a very ugly, disgusting thing to say, okay, I killed him, I'll pay you. No. You're paying for the kaparah of your neshama. That has nothing to do with the apotropos. The apotropos, or even the yesomim. In other words, the apotropos is there to pay for nizikin. I took 1,000, I'll give back 1,000. Yeah, it's like there was a very famous man in the Memshala when the Medina started. His wife was a kleptomaniac, so she would steal all the time in the supermarket. You know who I'm talking about. You don't know? The airport guy. She was a klepto. So then, and he would go after her and he would pay. He would pay for her. She's miskana, she's sick, a kleptomaniac, so you have to pay. You're the husband. I'm not saying halachically, but he wasn't religious at all. Yeah. So Mimela, right? So now, same thing over here. Lamaisa, there's something taken away, Rabbi Baruch. Give it back through an apotropos. Death is not taken and given away. You're not giving back life through money. It's all spiritual. It's more like a korban, the Gemara is going to compare it to. It's the idea that a life was taken, the one in charge has to have kaparah. That's not the apotropos. Apotropos wouldn't come there for that. Yeah? Get me? The apotropos, even though he didn't guard, because it's not his, lemaisa, it's not his, he's not the one who chuv in kaparah. And the one who explains it even more is the Beis Meir. He does not need kaparah. He does not need kaparah, and he's not going to step in. Bechlal, he wouldn't, what did we say 2 days ago? Apotropsim are not exactly enthusiastic to do that ugly job, Bechlal. I have to pay for like a spiritual thing. It's like I have to be mischav korban. No, I'm not interested. To say that I have to pay or borrow or temporarily pay for a nezek, that I accept. But this is not a nezek that I'm taking and giving back. I'm entering a matzah. It's like becoming a coin. Between you and me, I wouldn't like to be a coin. It's just more of a headache to start to fly over there. It's not going to cemeteries, not going to yard sites. I don't need that on my head. It's just another chiyuv ruchni on his mind. No, says apotropos. I don't need that on my mind. To pay money, okay, the guy's a rich guy. He can lend, he can this. Maybe he's paying from their money. It's just money. But to start saying that I have to mechuyev in the spiritual side of it, I'm mechuyev kaparah, no, leave me alone. No apotropos would do that. Yeah, I'm combining here the Beis Meir and the Talmud.
Yeah, but the apotropos is coming into the scene. Or after
even before Lo Meshane, he wouldn't come. He came al menas that he doesn't have to pay kofer. That's it. I came to the job knowing kofer is not my job to pay money. He gorged 1,000. Okay, 1,000. Take the check and leave me alone.
So we're in limbo. So we're in limbo right now.
So therefore, they don't pay kofer.
Wait.
I'm entering North Korea very soon. The bus is nearing the border of North Korea. Enjoy the scene.
The magic number.
But yeah. Again, apotropsim mishalmim in aliyah, ve'en mishalmim kofer. The apotropsim only have to pay money for nezikin. They don't pay kofer for a dead person who died by the show, was killed by the show. Frag the Gemara, man Tana, which Tana is it? Asking what's the chiddush, you'll see the chiddush. Man Tana kufra kaporo, v'yas milabne kaponinu. There's a machlokes in the Gemara whether kofer is kaporo. Is a kaparah. It's nothing to do with money, like I said. It's a kaparah. It's atonement for what they did. It's like to say, by the way, halacha l'maisa, today there is no korbanos, last time I checked. If you mechalel Shabbos, b'shoigig, let's say, what's your kaparah? One suggestion in halacha is tzedakah. Kaparah on your soul, give tzedakah apart from your dear money, not from meiser, and then the next time you know better. Yeah, and do something for the... Okay, for your fellow Jew, but kaparah. Here too, it's a kaparah to give the money. There's another opinion that says that kufra is money. Not like I said. Kofer is actually money to be given to the family of the nizak like a compensation. Not my kaparah because I'm the owner, because they have to be compensated to a point. You can't give back the soul to the person, only Hashem can, but that's like a mamoino, money. This opinion seems to follow the opinion. This opinion seems to follow. This Mishnah seems to follow the opinion, to go with the opinion that says that kaparah is Kofer is kaparah. Those little ones, they're not bar kaparah. They're not b'chlal in parsha of chiyuvei mitzvahs, and therefore they're potter. Who's the one who said that? Who's the Tana who believes that little ones, even though it's guarded with the apotropos, should not give because it's just a way to atone and not real money? Had it been money, the Yisomim would be chayiv. If you say that killing a person and having to pay is like killing another animal or breaking a table, it's just money, then the little ones would pay, like you're saying, there's no patropus. If you say it's kaparah, they don't have to pay because they're below bar mitzvah, just like they don't have to put in tefillin and they don't have to sit in a sukkah except for chinuch. Amar Chizda, you know who's the Tana who says that? Rabbi Shmuel, b'noi shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Broiko, it's Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broiko, the Tanya. It says in the Brisa, v'nosan pidyon nafshoi. It says in the Torah about a person who's sure killed someone else, that he should give the pidyon nafshoi. What's pidyon? Like a pidyon gelt, like a redeeming. How do you say pidyon? Redeeming money. Yeah. How much is that? Dmei nizak. How much? The money, as I said before, the value of the nizak. Let's say the nizak, the victim, Zichronu Livrocha, was worth 1 million in the market. A very successful guy. You have to pay 1 million. That's not Rabbi Shmuel. That's Tanaim Kama, because you pay the money. You killed $1 million guy, pay $1 million. Just like you broke $1 million table, that's an expensive table, pay $1 million. Rabbi Shmuel, Dmei mazik. Wow, you heard that? Rabbi Shmuel says, no, it's not the money, the worth of the nizak, the worth of the mazik. Let's say the person himself, the owner of the show, is worth $500,000. He's not a surgeon in hospital. He's worth $500,000, the owner of the show. He has to pay the value of his money of the owner of the show. Why? What's the logic over here? Because it's kaparah. You have to give the money that you are worth, because you're like giving a korban to Hashem, so to speak. You're giving your worth to the family of the victim. My love, well, must be what we're trying to derive from there to continue the line of thought and say, must be that's a machlokes. The Rabbanan savri kufor mamoinu. Rabbanan say that kofer is money. It's a compensation money, and therefore you have to pay $1 million. You killed your shore killed our dear father, and now our dear father, who is worth $1 million, is now dead in the cave. Pay $1 million. That's called, last time I checked in the dictionary, money. Partial compensation. So what made him say that you pay the money's worth of the mazik? Kofer kaparah. Must be probably he believes that kofer is a kaparah, an atonement for who? For the one who gored, the owner of the one who gored. And therefore, it's nothing to do with the nizak, it's to do with the mazik. Your shore did that, your negligence or your ownership, whatever, led to such atrocity that that person died. How much are you worth, mister? You have to pay with your life. How much is your life worth? $500,000? Pay $500,000. $2 million? Pay $2 million. L'choira, the Gemara suggests that that's what stands behind the machlokes Rabbi Shmuel and Chachamim. Yeah, kaparah versus mamoina. And therefore, the author of our Mishnah, the Brisa, that says that the Yisomim who are not bar kaparah, Yisomim don't have to be atoned because they're not in the story of mitzvahs b'chlal, and therefore they're off the hook completely, must be Rabbi Shmuel, because he believes it's kaparah, they're not kaparah. But had he believed it's mamoina, of course they have to pay. Money they have to pay through the apotropos, which you were talking about. The Gemara now rejects that. The Gemara rejects it and says, no, not the way you understand B'Shmuel Chachamim, kaparah versus mamoina is not necessarily true. Amar Papa suggests a rejection for that pshat. No, the kula alma kufa kaparah. Everybody believes kufa is kaparah. That's good. Both Chachamim and Rabbi Shmuel, both Chachamim will say how much you pay, like the nizak, and Rabbi Shmuel said mazik. They both believe that kofer is kaparah, which is good, because now our brisa, the brisa now got what? A consensus from all sides. Our brisa that says that it's kaparah is not only Rabbi Shmuel brisa, it's everyone's brisa. Got exposure to everybody. Everyone agrees to it. No. So why do they argue about nizak versus mazik? What's the argument about? Should you pay according to the sum worth of the nizak or the mazik? Explains the Gemara very nicely. It's a very, very technical machlokes from the Psukim. This is what they argue about. Rabbanan Savri bedenizak sheminan. Rabbanan say, listen, I know that it's kaparah. Of course, the spirit of the law, the idea is to atone for the sin of the mazik. But how much do you pay? How much sheminan? What's sheminan? How do we assess? How do we evaluate the money, the nizak? You have to atone for yourself. You're not paying for him. It's a very ugly thing. I killed him, I'll pay. No, you can't pay for that person. Elamai, the way you evaluate it, the way you get kaparah is by paying for what he was worth. But it's your kaparah, not his, not really paying him. He says, no, it's your kaparah, it's your value that you have to pay. Now the question is, what made them say each way? What made him say this way? What made them say that way? It's all psukim, and it's going to be a very short and sweet machlokes. It's technical reading of the verses in the Old Testament. My time, the Rabbanon. Why do Rabbanon say you pay with the money, not with the money? You pay the value of the nizak. Nemra shisa lemata, v'nemra shisa lemala, which means if you open Exodus 21. You open Shmois Chafal Fashas Mishpatim quite at the beginning. There is a case there. The word shisa, lashis, lashit means to place, to put, which means how much money do you claim? Do you put on him? Do you claim from him? About the first parsha there's a story there about a pregnant woman whom somebody who hit her in the stomach and it killed the unborn baby. He's not a gynecologist, he's a guy who did it without her interested, And he hit the vlodos, one or two babies were inside, so he has to pay the father, not their value, the value of the woman's worth before or after, he has to pay money. If you kill the babies, you have to pay money, you don't get killed. It's not like killing a live human being, as opposed to what Catholics say, it's not the same. But what is it? You have to pay for the value of the unborn baby or the difference of her before and after the pregnancy. Now you pay money. And the words that the Torah uses are kasher yoshis olav bala isha. How much do you have to pay? As much as the husband of the woman yashis puts upon you, claims from you. That's lemala, above, and shisa lemala. And lemata, by the muad, our story, a muad who killed, and you have to pay, you, the owner of the muad, it says, kofer, the famous kofer, yushas olov. The kofer will be placed on him. Kofer is demanded of him. Wait, that's a weird word that appears twice. Yashis, yushas. It's the same shorish of lashis, to place, to put. If so, very good. That's a comparison. How much do you pay for the unborn baby? Like the mazik or the nizak? The nizak, of course. The unborn baby was worth X, or the woman before and after the pregnancy was worth this or the other. She would be sold, let's say. Then what do you say? Malalan, let's continue the Gemara. Malalan, but the nizak, just like with the one who hits the pregnant woman, he obviously has to pay how much? Like the nizak, for the unborn baby. That's the assessment. That's what you pay. Afkan b'denizak. Say chachomim here too. The same word yashit. It's gzera shava. It's not the same word. It's shem shosh yashis and yushas. So too here, but the show nogach, the show muad, that gourd, he has to pay nezek sholem of what? It's not nezek sholem exactly. No, it's kaparah. But how much do you pay? Like the nizak. The nizak was worth 1,002,000. You have to pay 1,002,000. If you evaluate him by the market. That's the cost of Gzera Shova. Why? Because why did Rabbi Shmuel says that what? They have to pay like the mazik. It says Poshut. It says V'nosan Pidyon Nafshoi. He says he has to give the pidyon, the redeeming of his nefesh. His nefesh of who? I understand of his own nefesh who requires pidyon. Who needs kaparah over here? The Mailim, of course, the owner of the bull. Nafshoi. His nefesh needs redemption, so to redeeming needs to be dealt with, needs kaparah. So he might as well pay his own value. The Rabbanon. What do Rabbanon say to that good taina? Rabbanon now reply and they say, no, true, I know. Pidyon nafshoi ksiv. We know that he has to pay so to speak, to atone for himself, to redeem himself. That's the spirit of the law in general. Miu ki shaiminan b'denizak shaiminan, which means they separate the two. So very, very nice. Rabbi Shmuel learns one pasuk and one pasuk only. Pidyon nafshoy. You have to pay for the pidyon, for the redeeming of your soul. Your soul is now dirty with a terrible sin of being so negligent, or just with a mere being an owner. We said the animals are like the extension of the person. Yeah. So spiritually too, your soul is now in trouble deep, and therefore redeem yourself. That includes two things. A, the spirit of the law is you have to redeem your soul. Secondly, how do you redeem your own soul? With your own value. That's Rabbi Shmuel. Chachamim divided into two. They say, of course, the spirit of the law, pidyon nafsho. You know that. That's a general idea. But how do you lemaisa assess? How do you evaluate? What do you actually pay? That you have to pay, but the nizak sheninan, like the money, like the worth, like the value of the damaged party. Why? Because there's a gzera shava from the pregnant woman to the shonogach. Just like the pregnant woman, boom, this terrible thug, he gave this fist to the lady, and he has to pay for the unborn baby, of course, the nizak. So to here, you have to pay for the nizak, meaning not for him as paying. You have to atone for yourself through paying the value of the nizak. That's what Chachamim say. But lemaisa, we're very happy. Big smile. Everyone agrees that the spirit of the law is kaparah, not mammon. Everyone agrees it's kaparah. Everyone agrees that the idea is to atone for yourself. And since Tanaim do not need atonement, a cotton eats chazir is a very, very, very bad thing. But I'm saying it's not like an adult. He's not like he needs kaparah. And therefore, we say what? The Ktanim don't have to pay. Apotropos is out of the story. Apotropos is not dealing with spiritual things, which are anyhow not payment. It's not payment. It's not paying for damage. Yeah, lo meshanekva. By the way, to give a more balabatish answer, that's my 2 cents, to add to what the Rishonim Nechonim say, once the shore Gordon killed, the shore dies anyways. So the apotropos' job is over because you killed the shore. I'm just being practical now. Yeah? Lamaisa, the end of the life of the shore came, so that's it. From now on, I'm just saying, Mitzai and the side point, technically, the game over once the shore gores, because then you kill him. Yeah. I had a good question. What would be if a person illegally crossed the fence and jumped into the pen, into the cow shed, let's say, where the bull is properly guarded, and that's why he was gored? He wants to play the Spanish, the red flag thing. So now, yeah, very nice. So now, if we talk about nezikin, not kaparah. If we speak about nezikin, we already said once, twice, my boys. If you come to my domain with no permission, I don't have to pay for your nezikin. As opposed to the idiotic American law, I don't have to pay if a burglar comes to one's house. He doesn't have to pay for the burglar who broke his leg. Because there's a case in America like that, yeah? That's not. So nezikin, but kaparah, you're saying, maybe because kaparah is such a spiritual thing, so maybe at the end of the day, Mashor did gore the other person and killed him. So even though it was the person's fault, maybe I still need kaparah. I don't know. It's a good one. I'll discuss it with Mecharusa, bli neder. Okay, I still owe you something from yesterday, which I remember, and I'll tell you later on. But I want to try and continue. And then at 10:20:00, bli neder, I'll tell you something which I owe, a debt that I have to you from yesterday. Let's continue though. Mishabech le'rove. New story to do with our sugya. Story time, something to do with the sugya. Mishabech le'rove le'Rav Nachman. Rove praised in the ears of Rav Nachman, b'deravacha bar Yaakov, Dodon Godelu. Don't get confused. There are 3 people here in the scene, 3 protagonists. Rove tells Rav Nachman, you know Rav Nachman? Ooh, Ravacha bar Yaakov, he's an Odom Godel, he's a great person. Yeah, you don't know Rav bar Yaakov. Whoa, Chashav et Talmid Chacham. Omerle, Rav Nachman replies to Rove, really? Wow. When he comes to you, in other words, when you come next time you come across him, come, bring him to me. I want to test him. I want to see who he is. You're saying he's a great guy. No, I want to schmooze with him in learning. The time came, and really, Ravacha bar Yaakov, the acclaimed Talmud Chacham, came. Omerle, now he's tested by Rav Nachman, who was a big dayan. Now, Rav Nachman is testing Rav Acha bar Yaakov to see if he's as great as, as he's assumed to be. So it says, no, ask me something. No, I'm sorry. Rav Acha bar Yaakov asked Rav Nachman, give me a for hair, test me, ask me something in learning. He asked him the following question, very interesting question. There's a show that belongs to Reuben and Simeon. Reuben and Shimon together own a show. If there's a nezek, they pay half. That's what partners are all about, right? But what about kofer? Let's say their own show, muad, let's say killed someone. Now they have to pay kofer. It's not so simple, the kofer, how they're going to pay. What's going to be now the story? Let's see the dilemma here. Mishalem hai kofer. Since kofer is on the soul of the person and not a payment, each one has his own cheshbon. So I would say he pays full kofer, and Shimon should pay full kofer because it's individual by the owner. If that's a story, kofer echad amar chmon v'lo shnei koferin, the Torah says, l'maaseh pay a kofer, not two koferim. The Torah doesn't say kofer per each. There's a kofer to be paid. Explains Tosfos. When you have a korban, you have two shutfim, let's say, who did an avera together. Each one has to pay his own chatas, each korban to Hashem. Because to Hashem, each one pays alone. But since over here, there's one human pocket bank account that everything goes to, which is the nizak, why should the nizak get double? The nizak is not supposed to be marviach and get double, the family of the victim, just because it happens to be that the shore has two owners. Also not fair. So now what's the other solution? Hi chatzi kofer, hi chatzi kofer. So let each one pay half a kofer. Let's say we go with the victim. The victim is worth 1 million. Each one should pay half a kofer. That ain't working either. Kofer sholem amorchmona v'lo chatzi kofer. The Torah says you have to pay a full kofer, which means because it's a kaparah for your soul, you can't get half. Don't give me half a korban. Give me the whole thing. So we're really stuck. To say half is not enough. To say each one would pay full kofer, and now the victim will get 2 million, that's not what the Torah means either. There's no inyan for him to get too much. We don't bargain to him to get too much money. Says Tosfos. Ad Yossi v'kame'ayin, it's 10:18. 10:20 we'll be back to South Korea. Ad Yossi v'kame'ayin bo. Meanwhile, so now Rav Acha bar Yaakov is being tested. He's sitting and me'ayin. He's looking into the question, opening Sfarim, opening Otzar Chachma, whatever. I don't know, Wiki Torah, whatever. He's looking in the sugya. And meanwhile, now Rav Nachman is bombarding him with another question. Rav Nachman is tough on Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Amar leitnan, it says in the Mishnah, Chayver Erchin, those who are Chayev Erchin, which means a person said, Erki Olai. There's a parsha, each person has value, nothing to do with his market value that the Torah placed on him, evaluate him to be worth. So let's say a person said, I am new, no, I should know it as a fundraiser. No, I'm committing. No, what's the word? Pledging. Oh, I should know this word, I'm pledging, pledges are pledges. Between the pledge and the donation, a year or 2 or 3 or 4. There's a long road between. The one who pledged his own erech to Beis HaMikdash, memashkenin oison. Beis Din comes to his house and they take a mashkon, they take a collateral, and they say, you don't pay the erech, we take your mashkon, we make sure that you pay, the Beis Din from Beis HaMikdash, Gizborim, they come and they take the money to Beis HaMikdash. You know why? Because people are very slow to pay their pledges. Why? Because it's not a kaparah for a sin that they did. People don't like to have a sin on their mind. Oh, Gehenim, oy vavoy. If it's just a nice donation, the person says, I am donating. Hey, I pledged. Wait, Mr. Fundraiser, you should wait 10 years until Holy Me will give you something. That's why Beis HaMikdash hastens it and makes sure that they pay by placing a mashkon, taking a collateral. But people who have to pay chatas or osham, a guy lit fire on Shabbos by mistake because he thought it was Sunday. Osham, a guy lied with a shvua about the pikodon, is chayv korban, that would get him into trouble. If you chayv chatas and osham and you don't pay it in Gehenim, you're going to get it very hard. So Gehenim people are scared of oynesh. You don't have to ask for a mashkon because people are self-motivated. People pay the chatos. Chatos will come very quickly to Beis Hamikdash ASAP. The chatos should be off my mind. It's almost like paying your tax at the end of the tax year. You know, like, I got to. I don't be in jail. I don't be in jail, and people are self-motivated. You don't need mashkon. They're going to come with it very soon, very quickly. Chayv kofer in Mai. Now comes the question: what about the person who's chayv kofer? It's in between. A person who's short gourd, he says, million, okay, million. Is he slow and I have to take mashkon to make him make sure he pays? Or is he quick and self-motivated and I don't have to force him? Kevin the kaparah who kechatas vasham dami. Kaparah, do you remember I told you? Kaparah is like a korban. The money that he has to pay to the family of the victim is like a korban to atone for his neshama. So it's very severe in his eyes. It's kofer. Let's get honey. Let's pay the kofer straight away, even before we pay the makolet. We don't have to be mamashkani. We don't have to take the collateral. Or dilma, or maybe listen to the Gemara psychology. Don't laugh. Having to pay to my friend and not to pay to Hashem, that can take time. It's not something going to Hashem, going to where? Going to my friend. I have to pay to Reuven, not to Kadosh Baruch Hu. That can take time. Reuven can wait. He's a friend, yeah? So it's not so severe in their eyes. And therefore, you better take the mashkon quickly because people are quite slow to pay the debts to their friends. Right? Now, 2 more lines and we finish. Inami. Another reason why people are slow and may drag their feet to pay the kofer. He did not sin. It's his money, his bulldog, his Rottweiler. He's the one who was mad. It wasn't me. It's not so severe in his eyes. The rabbi said I have to pay. I'm an Orthodox Jew, but it doesn't make sense to me. Why I have to pay so much for what Joey the bull did, yeah? So maybe we have to force him and take the mashkon. So tell me, Rav, the one under test now, Rav Yaakov, what are you going to say? Omerlei Shavkan, leave me alone. Istagel bekamaisa. I already closed my mouth the first time. I'm still dealing with the first question. I'm still grappling with the first question about double kofer versus half a kofer. I'm still baffled by that, and you're bombarding me with another question. I don't know the answer to either of your questions. So I can see here on the side, by mashkon, the halacha is, by kofer, we do take mashkon. We all know that a person can give a very generous donation to tzedakah, but if the taxi driver, he thinks the taxi driver lied to him in 1 whole shekel, you lied in 1 shekel? No. To give this taxi driver like this, to pay him a shekel, he donated to the shul 1,000 shekel for the aliyah. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, tzedakah. But to give another fellow Jew something, that's the psychology of people, and Chazal knew that, and that's a metzias. And therefore, since he owes it, we need to take mashkon because he's not going to be too quick to pay. Plus the fact that he says, my animal did it, I didn't do it, it's him, it's not me. So psychologically, people are not running to pay their kofer, and therefore we have to come and enforce it with a polizei. Wow, it's a bit past time. I hope to be here from now on. I hope to be in share on time. Time for questions now for 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you later.